I don't suppose they told you anything in Denver about the tragedy we had up here during the winter of 1970? I hired a man named Charles Grady as the winter caretaker. And from what I've been told, he seemed like a completely normal individual. But at some point during the winter, he must have suffered some kind of a complete mental breakdown. He ran amok and killed his family with an axe.
Well, you can rest assured, Mr. Ullman, that's not going to happen with me.
That's right.
Mom, do you really want to go and live in that hotel for the winter?
Sure I do. It'll be lots of fun.
The only thing that can get a bit trying up here during the winter is the tremendous sense of isolation.
Is there something bad here?
I fear you will have to deal with this matter in the harshest possible way.
But dude, I killed you with Danny.
You did this to him, didn't you?
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains. Here's Johnny.
Welcome back to Flashback Horror Movie Podcast. I'm your host, the Prime Minister of Sinister, Don Nice. And with me, as you probably have already guessed, is Triple P, the Pajama Pants Playa, John Grande. What's going on, John? How are you today, buddy?
I am doing great, my brother. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's nice to be back after the new year and with this crazy cold weather, and I know you got a ton of snow and we got a ton of snow and ice, so we're both off. Neither of us are working, so we had a chance to sit down today to talk about I think both of our favorite movies, especially our favorite wintertime movie, The Shining. What do you think?
Oh man, I've been wanting to talk about The Shining in detail, like a whole episode on The Shining for the longest time, actually, because
Nice.
It's honestly one of my favorite movies. Not even just horror movies,
Sure.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's just a really, really great one, and we're going to get into full detail on
Absolutely.
as to why that is, and It's just one of those movies, man. It's timeless, and
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
I'm so excited to talk about it today.
Cool. Well, I know you've been off of school and work lately, and I know you were sick, so you're feeling better. So it's nice to actually talk to you. I know it's probably been a couple weeks since we talked. So I know I've seen a few movies. I'm sure you've seen a few movies. What have you? I know you've been sitting around with not a lot to do. With what you said, like almost 2 feet of snow or close to 2 feet.
Yeah.
Holy moly!
It snowed really bad. It was funny. Like on Wednesday night, my boss came into work, and like he's not like you rarely like if he comes in, something's up, something's going on,
Right.
And he comes in and he goes, "Oh, hey John," and I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "What's going on? Am I in trouble?" And
Right.
he goes, "No." He goes, "We're gonna get so much fucking snow tomorrow that I'm already telling you that you're off Thursday through Monday." And I
Wow.
was like,
That's
"Wow!" I was
insane.
like, "That bad?" And he was like, "Yep." And I was like, "Okay." So I was sick as it was because
Right.
on Tuesday all day I was kind of like feeling a little bit weary, worse for weary, and then for some reason I just had the worst headache of my life.
Oh man.
And I'm not a person that gets headaches or
Sure.
migraines or anything like that,
Sure.
so it was not. It was totally out of the norm.
Right.
And I fucking felt like somebody was driving ice picks into my fucking head. Man. The worst
sucks.
pain of my life.
Yeah.
And like I was like, if this doesn't go away, I'll drive myself to the ER tomorrow in the snow.
Oh boy. Wow.
So thankfully I woke up with no headache, and then it was
Sweet.
just kind of like a sinus cold, like flu thing, and it kind of passed out. Like it kind of was gone. I was 100% by like Friday nightish at around like 7 or 8 o'clock, I felt like 100% better.
Nice,
I was like,
nice.
oh man, this is great. Now I can enjoy the weekend and shit. So, yeah, getting over that illness was good. But I did watch a lot. I got a lot from, for Christmas. I got a lot of DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff.
Right.
But I did like the standout movie that I watched was one I revisited for the first time in a long time.
What's that?
And Will came over actually.
Nice. How was Will?
We had a pepperoni pizza.
Nice.
We had a big Hawaiian punch. It was awesome. We kind of had a nice little movie night.
Cool.
We watched Mallrats from 1995.
Hello, Kevin Smith.
Yes, Kevin Smith joint.
Holy crap.
Really, one of my favorite comedies, man. And it's one of those movies, I always really liked it, but, it's one of those movies I went back and I was like, man, what an underrated movie, at least I thought. So many really good laughs in that movie. It's basically these two guys, and they're just kind of going throughout the mall throughout the day, and it's a lot of funny dialogue, and Jason Lee is really one of the best Kevin Smith characters. It's basically Clerks in a mall.
Sure, absolutely.
It's so, I don't know, I was a huge mall rat my whole life. I always loved in middle school, elementary school, and even in high school, we'd hang out in the mall, and we just literally spend a Saturday night in the mall.
Yep.
Just talking about movies, talking about nothing, and it's that's I love shit like that. If I could make a movie, I'd make something like Mallrats. It would be something that I could connect to,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is back when Kevin Smith was kind of in his heyday. You know what I mean? So seeing something like this now again, I don't know. Do you think that the younger generation would get these movies?
Oof, that's a good question.
You know what I mean?
I actually don't think they'd get something like Clerks because
Right.
Clerks is one of those movies that, even though it's very fucking vulgar and the language in it is very crude,
Sure.
it's not I think it's too smart of a movie for people to get now. I think people are really into dumb shit. Some of the comedies that come out, really some of the comedies that come out now, people laugh at. There's this show, and I'll apologize in advance if anybody likes it. It's called The Eric Andre Show.
Oh, never heard of it.
And everybody around here tells me it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I've never heard the show get so much praise. And I was like, all right, it sounds really funny. Let's give it a watch. I don't know if I just don't get it or if I just am completely out of what this generation finds funny. But man, I thought it was the most boring, unfunny show I've ever seen in my life, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I think it's terrible.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. Maybe I try to steer clear of that, huh?
Yeah, I would personally steer clear with that if I was you, because I don't know, I don't get it. It's not even that it's slapstick, it's just stupid for the purpose of being stupid. Kevin Smith movies are smart, they're funny,
Right.
They have the witty kind of dialogue. Basically his comedy is, let's talk like two real people.
Right.
And just a real conversation. There's a part in Mallrats where Jason Lee is saying, do you think Lois Lane could hold Superman's sperm?
Wow.
He's like, I don't think he could, man. He says, because he's an alien. I mean, unless he was wearing a kryptonite condom, that would kill him.
Right.
Funny, smart little conversations
Sure.
like that. And it just, there's certain charm to that. There's a certain humor that works. And I think it's because it's genuine and because Kevin Smith is just so magical with how he delivers his stuff. It's not in your face. It's
Right.
just suggested. It's just there for you to enjoy. And
Yeah.
I think that he's very subtle with that. And I think he's mastered it, really.
Yeah. The cast in this is really good too. I mean, like you said, Jason Lee. It's got Ben Affleck in it. Obviously, Joey Lauren Adams, who was super hot back then. I haven't seen her in anything lately, so I can't tell you. Claire Forlani's in this. I mean, it even has Stan Lee, Michael Rooker, Priscilla Barnes. So it's got a really, really good cast. And like you said, it's there are times in Kevin Smith movies where I'm like, oh my god, okay, that's a little too far. But overall, especially this movie, I enjoyed Clerks also. This movie is probably my favorite of his. And I haven't seen it in quite some time. Maybe I'm gonna have to go back and revisit it. So, but yeah, man, that's a really, really good movie. And we do understand it has nothing to do with horror, but we like to talk about shit. So if you don't like it, suck it.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to talk about all kinds
Absolutely,
of movies.
absolutely.
it's like because the main topic is going to be, you know, one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
Exactly.
You know, it's nice to go back, like, because I said this to Will. I was like, you know, like, I forgot how much I loved good comedies. Like,
Sure,
you
absolutely.
really almost forget about it because I don't go to the theater anymore to watch a comedy, like, because I automatically think like, you know, I know you liked the new Jumanji.
I would love it.
I actually thought it looked very good, and I will see it eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll see it in the theater,
Sure.
but I will see that movie because I really am a big fan of the original.
Yeah. My whole family went and saw it, and we absolutely loved it. So, I mean, if anybody who hasn't seen it, definitely go check that. Definitely go check that out. It's, you know, I mean, it's fun, it's funny. You know, it's a popcorn movie. You know, I wouldn't go in expecting The Shining or, you know, Gone with the Wind or anything like that. But it's a fun, you know, it's a fun movie to watch, and everybody can go check it out. You know what I mean? Plus, that chick in there is so hot. I don't even remember what her name is, but holy shit.
Oh, she's in Oculus too.
Oh yeah, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Karen Gillian.
Yes. Oh my gosh, she's like 5'11". Anyways, she's cute.
Her height is so hot.
Yeah, it is. I don't know why. But anyways, yeah. So that, you know, that's a good reason. And obviously, those three guys, Jack Black, Kevin Hart, and The Rock, are really, really good together too. So I don't want to, you know, it's not just about the chicks, but they're all hilarious. Jack Black plays a girl. A girl who's playing a guy. You got to see it. I don't know how to explain it. And he does, you know, he does a bang up job. So, but anyways, yeah. So move on from that. But that's a great movie. It's made like $277 million. So, you know, it's doing pretty good.
Nice.
Not that. Are you still there? You sound a little far away.
I'm here.
Okay, cool. I'm just checking, just making sure.
Why is my sound low?
Yeah, no, you just sounded a little low for a second. We might be having some issues with Skype. I don't know. My internet was out for a while yesterday and didn't come on until like 4. So I don't know if there's a problem on my end, or, you know, if it's just cold everywhere and we're having problems. But it's not horrible. So anyways, one of the movies that I got 3 movies recently. And I'll tell you each one of them. I obviously got Hell Night, which is awesome to have because it's a very, very hard to find movie, even on DVD. Going for crazy money, kind of like I Spit on Your Grave. We were talking about that. I got that and watched it. Fantastic movie. And that's a Scream Factory release. All these are Shout or Scream Factory releases. The other one is Misery, which I haven't watched yet, which is another Stephen King, obviously. And the other one is Red Dawn, which is a Shout Select movie, the original Red Dawn. Are you a fan of that movie?
I have actually never seen the original Red Dawn.
Well, you know, I mean, it's definitely of its time. You know, it came out in the 80s when everyone was afraid of Russia and, you know, nuclear war and all. I mean, we're kind of going through that with North Korea a little bit, but it's got a great cast: Jennifer Grey, Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen. You know, it's a really, really good. I can't remember the other people's names, but it's a really, really good cast. But we sat down and watched that. That, you know, all 3 of those are really, really cool releases because there's tons of extras on the 2 Scream Factory releases that, you know, that you don't get a chance to see very often. Linda Blair talks about Hell Night, and I will say that does Linda. Well, I don't want to get into it. Linda Blair is very, very fake. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I don't like Linda Blair at all personally.
I went. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, I went to the Days of the Dead weekend, and she was there. And I watched her for a long time, because you know it's pretty interesting to see somebody that has that kind of a cachet, you know, with The Exorcist and so on and so forth. And she did not smile for probably 2 hours, and I'm like, how do you not smile when you're meeting your fans and so on and so? And that really turned me off of her. You know what I mean? So that really was a kind of a downer for me. But
yeah, she's one of those people. Like I've seen her at conventions too. I was actually going to go into the same spiel of how I've seen her at conventions, and I think she's absolutely the worst person. Like, because she's one of those people. Like, she has like 100 pictures of her dog on her table, and it's like, they're not here to see your dog, you idiot. Like, they're here to sign. They want The Exorcist, Hell Night, you know, all these movies that you've done, because, you know, there's a lot of people that love the nostalgia of it. You know, they love these movies, and like, there's some people just don't fucking get it, and she's just one of them. Yeah. She's literally there to take your money.
Exactly.
She has pictures of her dog to entertain herself. I'm really not a big Linda Blair fan, to be honest with you.
But I will say that Hell Night's a really good movie. It's about a group
of
fraternity and sorority brothers and sisters have to stay in this old mansion overnight because and the I don't know what you call them. The older brothers and sisters are going to play pranks on them, and they tell this scary story about this family that lived there, and they were inbreds. And anyways, bad stuff happens. And I will say, I do have to say that there's something about a young Linda Blair, like a late teens, early 20s Linda Blair. She was really, really cute, and she had that cherubic type face. You know what I mean? But and she was good in the movie. She really, the movie was good. Definitely, because of her, I thought. She was the big name. Peter Barton's in the movie, and what's his name? Is it Timothy Van Patten? I
believe so.
Yeah, you saw they actually messed up on the menu and put Timothy Van Patter, or is it Vincent? I don't know, whoever it is. Anyways, I just thought that was really funny. But anyways, if you haven't seen the movie, it's very easy to get a hold of now. It's relatively cheap on Blu-ray. It's got a lot of cool extras, and it's definitely worth a purchase in my opinion because it's not one that you can find very readily on DVD. And I believe this is the first release in Blu-ray, so it looks pretty good. So, anyways, what about you? What else did you see?
I actually watched Hobo with a Shotgun again, and that was honestly one of my favorite exploitation movies that is not from the 70s or 80s, I guess, because really that was that time for exploitation and stuff like that. So when Machete came out, I really liked Machete, but I honestly liked Hobo with a Shotgun better, and I always thought that Hobo with a Shotgun probably should have got that theatrical shot instead of Machete, but Machete did because Machete had the bigger cast and budget and everything, the established filmmaker and Robert Rodriguez, as opposed to Jason Eisner. But I think Jason Eisner's just did a fantastic job with this movie, and also I watched the documentary on the making of the movie.
Oh, okay.
And, it was super interesting to hear all the stuff that they went through. And it was one of the better making-ofs I've seen in a long time because it was guerrilla filmmaking. It was not an easy process at all.
Right.
He went through so much shit trying to make that movie. And then, I really liked the end result a lot. I know it's a movie that kind of divides and split people, but I thought it was a real good throwback to the exploitation movies that I know and love. Yeah. I actually was talking to Ryan about it. Ryan had never seen it, and I was like, yo, give it a watch. And he found it, I think, on Vudu. It was on his Vudu, and he texted me back 2 hours later. It was like, that was a great movie. I don't know how I didn't see it. So it was definitely one that I like to revisit. A lot of laughs, a lot of fun, a lot of gore, and just a really fun time. Have you ever seen it, and are you a fan?
I saw it when it first came out. I wouldn't say I'm not a fan. Not as big a fan as you are. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. Isn't it based on? Didn't he do a short and then made it into a full length?
What happened was they did in 2007. They did a competition.
Oh, okay.
To make a Grindhouse trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that obviously that Eli Roth made Thanksgiving and I believe the guy, Jesus, I can't think of his damn name. The guy that made Shaun of the Dead, Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
He made Don't. Rob Zombie did a trailer. So you had all these guys making their fake trailers, and then they wanted an unknown, a guy, an independent person to make a trailer. And basically Jason Eisner got his friends together and they shot the Hobo with the Shotgun trailer. And that was the contest winner. And then it was 3-4 years after when Machete came out, they were like, well, we'd like Hobo with a Shotgun to be made into a film too.
Nice.
And, from that trailer, they actually had to come up with a whole movie. And I always thought that was, wow, what a real throwback kind of scenario for a director. Oh, thanks for this 2 minutes. Now give us the movie. I think that's such an ass backwards way of doing something, but it's so cool.
So this Hobo with a Shotgun trailer was one of the trailers in Grindhouse.
No, it was just the contest winner. It was not actually played in. I don't know why that is either, because Machete was.
Yeah.
And the other ones I said, the Rob Zombie one, and it won the contest. I thought the contest winner was going to be in the movie myself. I remember going to the theater and being very disappointed when Hobo with a Shotgun didn't play, because I remember watching it online before I saw the movie in the theater. Right, so I was like, that's what it won the contest. I thought, maybe they just gave them money instead. I don't really know, but it's really cool that it ended up becoming its own movie so many years later. Who would have thought that?
Yeah, no doubt. And anybody that doesn't know, Rutger Hauer is in this movie, and he's the main character in this movie. And anything with Rutger Hauer, I'm willing to check out. You know what I mean? So 'cause everybody knows how. I think we've talked about The Hitcher. I'm a big Hitcher fan, so so anything that he's in, so anything that he's in, is worth checking out. Now, if I remember correctly, this cast is kind of a bunch of nobodies, right? Other than him.
Yes, he's the only person you're going to recognize in this movie. But like, what's really good, and what I thought was very interesting about this movie, going back and rewatching it, he's a huge wrestling fan, Jason Eisner.
Oh, nice.
And what he does is he's very, he kind of draws Rutger Hauer as the ultimate like Hulk Hogan babyface.
Nice.
And like these villains are like these really over the top like heels. It really reminded me of how a wrestling match is set up. It was they kind of build towards the end with the Big Drake and Rutger Hauer, and it's like I think the guy's name is either Tom Downey or Tim Downey, who plays the Drake, and he's a really, really good villain, and he has like these two sons that are his lackeys, and Rutger Hauer has to keep going through all these criminals to get to the Drake in this ultimate showdown, this like back alley of the town of Fucktown. That's what they actually call it. And like, I don't know, the whole thing is great. Like, the shot in Technicolor in the beginning, and some of the dialogue in this movie, really funny stuff. Like, just absolutely out of left field stuff. But like, I don't know, just really good music in it. And I just love that Rutger Hauer agreed to do this movie. Like in the making of. He's like, my agent was like skeptical, but I was like, I got to do this shit.
Right.
Like, yes,
nice.
Like Rutger Hauer knows the good shit. Man.
He just went up on the ladder, didn't he, when he said that? You know what I mean? That you like him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I was just like, what a fucking champ! What a trooper!
Right. No doubt.
Because most established actors would say, oh, they don't have no money.
Right.
This is sounds stupid. But like he was like, you know what? This is a throwback. This is what used to be in, and like let me try my hand at this, and he knocked it out of the park. He was great in the role.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's worth seeing just for him, but I mean the rest of the movie's good too, but if you're just a fan of his, you definitely have to check it out.
Yes, it's a must-see if you're a Rutger Hauer guy. Like if you're a huge Rutger Hauer fan, this is like one of the only movies I could think of that he's the lead of now. Like there's not many movies he's been the lead in since this movie.
Well, that's definitely worth anything. That's for darn sure. And I think he's got like 5 or 6 movies right now in pre or post production, which is
he's one of those guys. He doesn't stop work.
Yeah,
he so many movies.
He got a little Nicolas Cage in him.
Yeah, but he's a lot more talented.
Right. Exactly. So. But anyways,
anything else you saw?
Definitely go check that out if you haven't seen it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the other thing I saw was, I'd seen this when it first came out, and I thought to myself, and I'm a huge, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, I'm a huge fan of, like, documentaries on serial killers and things like that. So,
me too.
Everything, from Ted Bundy to, Henry Lee Lucas and, Jeffrey Dahmer, all that stuff. But I watched a movie based on a serial killer, and that was Zodiac, the David Fincher movie. Have you ever seen it?
I have seen Zodiac, yes.
And it's a super long movie. For a movie like this, it's a super long. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes or something like that. And that might even be the cut version. I don't even know. But,
it is, actually. I saw a version over 3 hours.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I will say that I really enjoyed it. It was it's not for everybody. I wouldn't say everybody should watch this movie because it is on the slow side. And, it's got a really, really good cast. It's got Jake Gyllenhaal. It's got the Hulk, what's his name?
Mark Ruffalo.
Thank you. Golly, Neds, I was just drawing a blank. It's got Anthony Edwards. It's got a really, really good cast. Chloe Sevigny's in it, which I'm not a huge fan of hers, but I'm trying to think of who else was in it. But I sat down and watched it again. I've only seen it twice. This was the second time I saw it, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good portrayal of, if you know anything about the Zodiac Killer, I thought it was a pretty good portrayal of the way it could have went down. I don't believe that it was based, strictly on a true story. The story's true, but the way that it went down and who was in it and who was involved in hunting him down and things like that, which they never did find this guy. They think they have the guy, but they're not sure because he died. They were supposed to have an interview. Anyways, it's a really good movie. I don't know, I'm not sure how you feel about the movie with its length, and it kind of rambled along a little bit too long. But for someone who really enjoys sitting down and watching those type of documentaries, I thought it was a pretty good movie. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I remember seeing it when it first came out, and I thought, well, this is a pretty good movie. I do remember it being rather lengthy.
Yes.
I think there was a movie that came out around this time too. It came out like back to back with another movie that nobody ever fucking talks about called Black Dahlia.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And that, like, I remember seeing that, being really excited to see that. I was like, oh man, this is going to be the better of the two. And I remember it was the absolute other way around. Black Dahlia ended up being an absolute flop of a movie. Right. And this ended up being the movie that I liked better. David Fincher's a great filmmaker.
Yeah, I really like. And even to myself, he's underrated. Like, because when I see his movies, I'm like, man, that was really good. You know what I mean? Even Alien 3. Even Alien 3, which I'm a fan
Alien
of.
3. I gotta go back and rewatch Alien 3 because I cannot make up my mind about that movie at all.
Yeah, I know people kind of flip-flop, you like it or you hate it, and most people hate it, but I have to be honest with you, I think it's very good. It works well in the canon of the series, and I know we're getting off topic. But yeah, David Fincher's a really good filmmaker. I guess that's the bottom line. I'm a huge Seven fan. Are you a fan of the movie Seven?
Oh, yeah. Seven is probably my favorite.
Yeah, that's a fucking classic in my opinion.
I agree. That's one of the best movies I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
That's a great... goddamn, like, all around one of the best movies I've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Another movie you were talking about, Black Dahlia came out, and right after this and Black Dahlia was Son of Sam, which I think was pretty funny. Did you ever see
that's
Son
crazy.
of Sam?
Like, it seems like they come in waves like that,
Yeah.
Like, there won't be one made for 25 years, and then it's like, oh, there's 3 coming out this week. It's like, like, what?
Right. I know. Yeah, and they're usually not very good, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very true. That's why when I saw the trailer, I thought Black Dahlia was going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, man, and the poster, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
the black lipstick. I was like, this is going to be cool. And I remember it being a total letdown. Now, I'm not sure that. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Was that who directed Black Dahlia?
I believe it was De Palma.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it De Palma? Because, like, that's wow, man. Like,
Yeah, it's sad to say that. And you want
it's sad to say that.
You want to talk about a cast? I mean, at the time, it was a huge cast. Scarlett Johansson, Aaron Eckhart, Josh Hartnett at the time, Hilary Swank, Mia Kirshner. I mean, it had a pretty decent, like, at the time, cast. So you thought, you would have thought it would have made a bigger mark. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I believe it was a huge flop, too.
Oh, yeah,
not even just a forgotten movie, just a movie that was barely even watched when it was coming out.
Yeah, I believe it. Like, if I remember right, it was like a $50 million budget, and it only made like $25 million or something like that.
Yeah, it was a huge flop, and with, like, financially, huge flop.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, it's sad because I'm a huge De Palma fan. Huge.
Oh,
De
my
Palma
God,
fan.
we both are. I mean, Jesus, Scarface and Carrie alone
absolutely.
are two of my favorite movies. And then, he's made other really, really good movies that nobody talks. I even like The Fury. I'm a huge fan of The Fury.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, listen, he is a very, very one of my favorite movies of his. I don't know how you feel. We're getting way off topic, but that's okay. One of my favorite movies of his, even with the classics, I think, is Body Double. Do you remember the movie Body Double?
I've never seen that.
Oh, my God, dude, John, it is an unbelievable movie, dude. I love it. It's got like a really young, hot Melanie Griffith in it. It's got Craig Wasson. Really, really good. It's about a guy who needs a place to stay. Like, he's an actor that's out of work and he needs a place to stay. And his buddy's like, hey, I'm going to Germany or something for a few months. Why don't you just stay in my house? And when he comes up to his house as the guy's leaving, the guy's like, hey, I want to show you something before I leave. And he gets out his telescope, and across the way there's this really hot chick dancing around in her house naked, right? So this actor, Craig Wasson, he's just watching this chick, right? And he sees this guy creeping around her house, and he sees her murdered. And he, so he, it's kind of like a Rear Window, if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, it sounds just like.
And let me tell you something. I like this movie just as much as I like Rear Window. And, his biggest influence, obviously, is Hitchcock in all of his movies. But this movie is kind of just like an updated Rear Window. It's a really, really good movie. If you haven't seen it, it's got like a 7 rating on IMDb, but it is really, really good. And probably my favorite De Palma film.
Oh, man, that is
I know, right?
That right there, the Don Nice quote on the DVD.
No.
Man. No, I will totally see it for sure.
It's definitely worth it.
Next time I get my hands on some money, I'm gonna totally, because I've been a little bit drained since the holidays.
I got you, brother. And that's another one that's hard to find too. To be honest with you, you might have to go online and look for it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Hey,
So,
we live in the digital age,
that's
right?
right.
I can stream it.
Yep. Anyways, what else? What else have you checked out? I think you got a couple more, right, or one more?
Well, no, that's actually it for
right.
now because I feel like I've enjoyed this tangent. But it's funny how this happens. Like,
I know, right?
If we go more than a week, it's like I've seen like 300 things.
I know,
and like we could easily keep going all day.
No doubt.
We could literally do a whole episode
Right.
of what we want.
What are we supposed to be talking about? I forget. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, maybe that Shining thing.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's get into it, brother.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to read the old synopsis for anybody who's living under the proverbial rock or, who was born on planet Mars that has not seen this movie?
Sure. Let me get to it real quick. I got off on a tangent and got all the others. It says, a family heads to an isolated hotel for the winter where an evil spiritual presence influences the father into violence, while his psychic son sees horrific forebodings from the past and of the future. And I think that synopsis kind of really is more like the book than it is like the movie. Did you read the book?
I have read parts of the book.
That's the way I am.
Started to read the book, and I just kind of gave up. I was kind of not really the most interested.
I'm with you. I think I definitely saw the movie before I started reading the book, and I thought, damn, the movie's better than the book. And I know there's people that disagree.
That's the first thing I always think of with this movie is the fact that the guy that the source material was taken from hates it.
Yeah.
And I just think it's the same thing to me as Roald Dahl and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Right.
It's how do you not like the movie? How do you not I don't understand either author's point and how they don't like these movies at all. I just don't get it at all.
Well, I think Stephen King at one point said he called The Shining a fancy car without an engine. So he felt like his story had a lot more heart, and and Kubrick's movie had a lot more visuals. Which isn't that kind of the point? You know what I mean? That's kind of how I always looked at it.
Would you say this movie is style over substance? Because I think it has a lot of both. I don't even think I know that Kubrick was a style over substance kind of guy, but I don't think that's to say that this movie didn't have the best story or the best acting or the best meat and potatoes. I think this movie has a lot of substance, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I look at it is I think that Kubrick or King may be a little envious because he couldn't pull it off. You know what I mean? Not book wise, but movie wise, and that probably has a lot to do with it too. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's very hard as an author to see something that maybe you consider your best work taken, and I think we both agree that it was definitely chopped up. You know what I mean? He didn't tell the full story that Stephen King told, and I think that's probably really what it boils down to. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, he deviated a lot too. It's very much. It's really not like the book at all. It's not. It's everything was changed.
Right.
And I could understand Stephen King's piece because I believe it was very close to Stephen King's heart because it was basically to him talking about his alcoholism and how hard it was for him and I understand that something like that could be so close and be so personal, and only he can know how personal that was, and apparently it really was. So I mean, I don't dislike Stephen King for not liking this movie, but I won't lie, I think this is one of those few instances. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, the book's always better." No way. I think the movie is 1,000 times better than the book.
Very polarizing, I think. You know what I mean? Because you have fans of King who see the movie, and then you have fans of movies who see a King movie, and I think that's really the big difference. And the people who read the book before seeing the movie, obviously they must have been fans. I mean, of the book itself, not necessarily the movie, and those are probably the people who are the. I hate using the word haters, but they're the haters out there who think that the movie is garbage because of the book. You know what I mean? And I get that. I mean, I feel that way sometimes too, especially about remakes of my favorites and things like that. So I totally understand that, but you have to go into the movies knowing that you're not going to get exactly. I don't know of any movie that's exactly like the book. Do you?
No, there isn't.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
It's not possible, I don't think. So yeah, so that's how that's how I feel about it. Let's talk about the cast. What could he have done better with the casting?
Well, you know,
loaded question.
When you're getting into this movie, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Hold on, my house phone's
He's way too busy.
Mute the old ringer on the house phone. But when you get into the acting of this movie, when you get into the cast of this movie, the first person that comes to your mind is obviously Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance. And it's one of, I know on our top 10 performances in horror movies, we obviously both had him on our list. It's one of the great acting performances of all time. Just absolutely amazing how Jack Nicholson was able to slowly kind of turn you, and he was able to by from the beginning of the film, he's smiling and he's just a normal guy, and I'm intrigued and all this stuff, you know, and how the movie kind of goes on and on and on, and how by the end how he leads you into the maze of you know, those eyes. His eyes in this movie are so, man, it's breathtaking because it's like he tells the story through his eyes and his expressions and his, you know, you see his struggles with, you know, coming off of alcoholism and being isolated and slowly but surely losing his fucking mind.
Right.
I think his acting performance in this is one of, if not the best of his career. Yeah. Now, for anybody else in this movie, I don't know. I've always been a decent fan of Scatman Crothers, and I think Danny Lloyd does a decent enough job. Sure. But of course, the only thing bad about this movie, I think, is Shelley Duvall as Mrs. Torrance. I think she does a terrible job.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start with Jack. I'll start with Jack. This movie began a man crush that I've had on Jack Nicholson, and what I mean by that is this man's talent as an actor blows me out of the water. It's so, you know, I was just talking to somebody, maybe it was last time we were talking, or I don't know. I've gone out since then and had many conversations, but this man's acting ability is incredible, and it's sad to me that we don't see him anymore. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about this guy as a human being. I know he's been, you know, it's been said he's a womanizer and all that crap. But his talent as an actor, this movie started. He's always been my favorite actor, you know, since I can remember. At least since this movie, I was 8 years old when it came out. I don't think I saw it at 8 though, but I'm just in awe of this man's ability as an actor. This movie runs the gamut, like you said. You know, he starts the movie smiling, and by the end of the movie, you're going, oh my God, this dude is fucked up. You know, so you know, obviously Jack, and I've gone back and watched old things too. You know, like Chinatown is an absolute classic, and he's amazing in that too. But so I love him in this movie, and he absolutely steals the fucking show in this movie, and I think he was meant to. Danny obviously did, you know, he was fine. He was, you know, they needed a kid. He was a kid, and he acted like a kid. So, you know, that really kind of works. Scatman Crothers, obviously, I love Scatman Crothers. I mean, you know, he died in 1986 or something like that. So, but I remember him from TV and from movies from when I was a kid. So I love Scatman Crothers. I thought he did a really good job. You know, he's a little woody and. Did I say woody? You know what I'm saying. He's very wooden-like, and his lines didn't seem to be delivered all that great, but I loved him in this movie. Now, I feel exactly the opposite of the way you feel about Shelley Duvall, and I'll tell you why. Because she was forced into this acting job, like the way she acted in this movie. Stanley Kubrick refused to allow anyone to sympathize with her during the making of this movie. Anybody who doesn't know Kubrick is the kind of guy who will do 100 shots, 100 takes of something.
And he did with this movie with Shelley.
Yes. So, you know what I mean? So I feel like he forced her into this performance. And not to say that she's ever proven that she's been an amazing actress or anything like that, but I really feel like this is exactly what he wanted from her. And I'm having a feeling we've talked about this in the past. You know, so... you know, if you've seen her in anything else, I would say, you know, she's not the greatest actress in the world. She's actually really a Looney Tune. no offense to anybody who's got any mental health issues, but she has her problems, So, but anyways, I thought she did a wonderful job in this movie. I thought it was believable what she was going through. The scene where she grabs the baseball bat and he's following her up the stairs and she just wants to go back to the room and leave him alone and so on and so forth. I don't know. I thought this movie was fantastic, and I thought these people did a really good job in this movie. Now, that's not to say Jack didn't take over, because Jack, he did, he's just going to take over everything, but he definitely takes over in this movie. But I thought it was really well done. What do you think about? You want to talk about Kubrick's direction, or do you think that's kind of played out at this point, or?
No, actually, I think that's really, other than Jack Nicholson, I think that's the supporting actor in the movie. Yeah. I really do, because I said this on my top 20 horror movies when I did on the YouTube channel. This is actually the last movie I talked about. Oh, okay. This is probably my number one movie for direction. Okay. I think this is the best directed horror movie of all time. I would definitely say that, because I can't think of one that's better set up than this movie. And there's a few separate shots I'd like to talk about. Okay. Obviously the opening shot with driving there, and that shot of the water. Oh,
absolutely.
The opening shot of the movie.
Amazing.
And just that eerie music. Dun, 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 that old school kind of 50s, 60s haunted house kind of movie music style to that. I love that opening scene. Absolutely. Also, the scenes in the hotel when Danny is riding the tricycle, going from carpet to hardwood to carpet to hardwood. Oh, yeah. It is absolutely amazing. No matter how many times I watch it, it's still creepy. It still holds up because it's so simple, yet it's so effective of how Kubrick can build tension from a however many year old kid on a tricycle riding around a hotel just playing, going from carpet to hardwood, carpet to hardwood. It just works so well because it's just super eerie or
unsettling.
Yes, it's that loud, and then when you go on the carpet, no sound at all. Yep. And then back to it. It's almost, I felt metaphoric to how the movie builds. It's it's silent at times, and then the noise happens.
Yep.
And it's I've always felt what a genius to think of something like that. And there's a few more I want to get into here, but what's first? I would love to hear what are your opinions on Kubrick's direction here, because I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think that because I saw this so young, it wasn't for a long time that I ever even thought about it. You know what I'm saying? I just love the
absolutely.
movie. I think he does a really good job. Do you give any of the credit for those shots to the cinematographer John Alcott that he worked with on?
Oh my God,
everything?
Dude! John Alcott is one of the best ever. He's also the guy who worked on Barry Lyndon. He also worked on Clockwork Orange, and he
2001,
absolutely. All three of those movies for cinematography are absolutely breathtaking. John Alcott is one of the most unsung heroes, and also I couldn't forget 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those four movies, all four of them, are visually stunning.
Yep, I agree. What do you know? I didn't know this off the top of my head. I found out doing a little bit of research. Do you know what other movie he photographed that year?
Yes, I do. Terror Train.
Yeah, one of obviously it's a classic in the slasher genre, but not one of our favorites, right? I would say that.
No, it's not really a movie I like.
But it's definitely not John Alcott's fault. But I just thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, Kubrick, learning about Kubrick over time. You come to realize that he may have been one of the best of all time. You know what I'm saying? So, it's up for debate. I don't want to really get into any of that stuff. But this is a guy who made things like Full Metal Jacket, A Clockwork Orange, 2001, and he directed Dr. Strangelove, right?
Yeah, Lolita.
Yeah, Lolita. Yeah. So, you look back, we look back at our horror favorites, directors wise, and no one has a history like this. You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing too is he only directed 16 movies. Did you know that? And 3 of them were shorts.
Yeah, and what people really and Kubrick would tell you that his career really didn't start till Lolita, because he claims that his first movie was really, a student film. He didn't know what he was doing, and the other movies maybe Paths of Glory was a movie, but like he said that Spartacus wasn't his movie. He said that it was a studio movie that they took over and stuff. He didn't really have that full creative control. And like with Lolita, that started his kind of grasp on controlling everything. And like, this is something I've actually always wanted to ask you about.
Sure.
Do you think Kubrick went into everything with the pre-planned notion of like, I have this? Like, do you think he was super organized, or do you feel that he kind of just went with it as the process started moving along?
Well, I mean, I can't say for sure, but I always thought he was pretty much a tyrant on set. So I figured he was probably an organized guy, and he would start early, and he knew exactly what he wanted. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but that's just the feeling I get from hearing stories about him in the movies that I know he's directed. What do you know anything about that?
Now, see, yeah, like I always thought that too. I always thought. No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But I recently watched an interview with William Friedkin,
okay,
and he said that he was on the set of I forget if it was 2001 or Clockwork Orange, but he was on the set one day just visiting, and he said that there's a difference between a guy like Kubrick and Hitchcock. He said, I've been on the sets of both those guys' films, and he said, from what I could gather, was that Hitchcock was the guy that was more had everything pre-planned and everything pinpointed, and everything was very classified and organized and neat. And Kubrick was a guy that went in with a vision, but could kind of change his mind as the things went along, in the process. He would go, oh my God, we should do this, and I'll make it work like that. He said that Kubrick was more kind of, he'd let it organically happen. And if that is true, if William Friedkin, if what he says is true in that interview, that's absolutely amazing to hear. It is. Because it's like, that's not the vibe it gives off at all. That's not what I think of when I think of Kubrick. I don't think of, we'll play it by ear when I think of Kubrick. I don't think that at all, but like maybe that's why his films worked, in the long run. Like maybe because they were so organic, he organically let stuff happen. It didn't just force it down your throat or, do something, pigeonhole something so much to the point where it became stagnant or stale. It was kind of, no, let's just let this roll. Let's just let this be what it is. And like, if that is the truth, then that's probably the secret to Stanley Kubrick's success. Yeah, but that's very hard to correlate with doing 60 takes. You know what I mean? Because why else would you do 60 takes if you didn't know exactly what you were looking for? You know what I mean? That's kind of crazy. But yeah, I mean, he definitely seems like an artist. You know what I'm saying? Which is pretty. Again, that kind of flies in the face of what I've always thought about him. You know what I mean? The fact that I always thought everything was had to be the exact way he had already had it planned out. You know what I mean? Because artists aren't usually like that. You know what I mean? I guess it depends on the artist, but you know what I mean? You would just think that, throwing some paint on the canvas, you know what I mean? And it just kind of happened, that's what you think of when you think of an artist. But yeah, I mean, he's a very interesting dude though, don't you think? Oh, Kubrick. Yeah. I've watched the Life and Pictures on Kubrick, the entire documentary. That is an absolute amazing documentary, and like it makes you want to watch all his movies like in a row. Yeah. And I actually thankfully have the set of like almost every movie he's ever made on Blu-ray in a row. So like they're amazing films, man. A lot of and all because of different reasons. Right. And like he was a guy that understood how to make something that didn't fit. Like in the end of Full Metal Jacket, when all these army men are singing the Mickey Mouse Club song. Yep. It's something childish and pure, right. And then it's kind of mixed with an army background. Right. Fire, people dying, yes. Women shooting guns, young women, young beautiful women, right. now shooting people down. She's a sniper. Yep. He was able to take these things that didn't go together and make them work and make you realize the true horror of the world. And I think that when Stephen King says, "Oh, well, Stanley's a cold son of a bitch," yes, he is. But what Kubrick's vision of the world is that this is a cold world sometimes,
right.
man. It's not all sunshine and rainbows,
right?
As good old Rocky Balboa would say. Like, it's not.
Right.
It could be cold. It could be nasty. It could be mean.
Right.
And I think that's why I love Stanley Kubrick so much, is because it didn't hold back. He never held back. He never held back the gun. He always pushed the envelope. And this is the prime movie I think of when I think of that.
Yeah.
Because he did no holds barred. This movie is absolutely no holds barred to the max. It's amazing how he made this movie. I absolutely, to this day, am amazed by it.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of things about him that that I find very interesting. That he never wanted to leave England. He didn't like to fly. All those things are pretty interesting for someone who had such grand visions. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I always found that very, very interesting. And anybody who knows this movie or knows anything about this movie, who doesn't know what the Overlook Hotel is? You know what I mean? That was, and I know they didn't shoot everything at this place, but somebody
iconic.
Yeah, somebody with that type of vision, and he built huge sets, like the Colorado Room, I believe is what it was called. That actually wasn't in that hotel. That was actually a built hotel, and I believe they had like 70,000 watts of light to recreate the light from the windows and all that shit. You know what I mean? So it's like that kind of stuff is very, very interesting. And I think what's interesting, mostly interesting to fans of our show, would be that this is a guy who did not go in to make a horror movie. You know what I'm saying? At least that's how I feel. He went in to make a stylistic, classic Kubrick movie. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think that most times when you talk about horror movies, people are intending to be scary and horrific and all. And I just think he thought, that's what the material is. That's what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just find that really, really interesting.
I always felt that this movie is. I agree. Like it's something he almost fell into because the backstory is on the documentary. They really go in depth as to why he made this movie. Because you got to remember, at this point in his career, he's coming off movies nominated for Best Picture.
Right.
And when this movie came out, it was hated.
Yes.
Absolutely hated.
Yeah.
It won Razzies.
Yep. Which
Do
is
you
amazing.
even fathom that? Like,
yeah,
it's
crazy.
I can't even believe he won Worst Director at the Razzies.
That's insane.
It's one of the best horror movies ever made.
Right.
That would be like John Carpenter's Halloween winning a Razzie. Like,
right.
It doesn't make any sense. But it's like that's the way it was back then. It really was not a big hit when it came out. Right. And the reason he made this movie is because Barry Lyndon was financially a flop. It was a good movie.
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
a stunning movie. It won 4 Oscars, but it was a flop financially. And he said, "I need to make a hit. I need money. I need to make that hit movie." And I'm sure he saw Carrie, and I'm sure he saw the money that Carrie made, and I'm sure he said, "Listen, this Stephen King guy. Let me read some of his stuff. He's red hot." And he read this story and he said, "I'm going to go make my ghost movie." And like, what's so cool about it is because like he got it, like those creepy little girl twins. That's pop culture,
right? Absolutely.
Those two girls, and how many seconds are even in this movie?
Right? Yeah, probably not
half
even
a minute.
probably not even a full minute. Yeah, no doubt.
Half a minute tops, if that. And like that's become one of the most iconic symbols of the genre is these two twins just holding hands, come play with us.
Right.
And it's like amazing how that has become a pop culture icon, those two twins and stuff. Like he was able to create tropes in this movie, like the Indian burial ground.
Absolutely.
Like that's usually when you think that, you think, oh, Poltergeist.
Poltergeist,
no,
right.
It's actually mentioned here, know?
Yep.
Like it's absolutely I don't know. Do you think he understood the genre? Because I think he almost was like he came in like you said, he came in not knowing the genre, maybe going in to make something different, and then he almost learned it and perfected it while making this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think he created, a subset of the genre.
Yes.
Because he didn't realize what he was supposed to do. You know what I mean? That's super interesting. That's super, super interesting. Do you know who else they considered for the role of Jack Torrance? Do you have any idea?
I do not. I thought Jack Nicholson was always the guy.
There's a couple guys that Kubrick mentioned, I guess, in an interview. The first one was De Niro.
De Niro?
Which would not have worked, in my opinion.
I don't think that would have ever worked.
And the other one I find even more interesting because it was Robin Williams. Can you imagine?
Holy shit.
Yeah, could you
know
imagine?
What? That actually, I would have been down to see that movie. It probably would not have worked, but, could you imagine that?
Very, very interesting.
Actually, thinking about, have you ever seen a movie called 1 Hour Photo?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that's
creepy.
actually a
creepy.
really good movie and a really good Robin Williams horror performance. Anybody that is a horror fan that has not seen that should see that because that's Robin Williams playing a horror movie performance.
Right.
He's
Underrated.
absolutely terrifying in that movie.
And according to Stephen King, they also considered Han Solo Harrison Ford.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I don't know if that's true.
You can imagine having those four options.
Wow, that's crazy.
All right, well, we could have Jack Nicholson, but we could have De Niro.
Right.
We could have Rob Williams. We could have Harrison Ford. Those are four of the best actors ever.
Yeah, I know, right?
All four of them.
Yeah, but you know what? That role now, I could never imagine it being anybody else. I mean, he is that guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
No, Jack Nicholson he had to play that role.
Yeah.
Had to.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
It personifies him. It's I think of Cuckoo's Nest, I think of Chinatown,
Oh, yeah.
I think of The Shining.
Yep, absolutely.
That's the three roles to me.
Me too, yeah, for sure. I mean, I love everything he does, but those are the three iconic roles, in my opinion.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, there are three great movies.
Yes.
There are three movies that, at a time where that's probably my favorite era for movies, the mid-'70s all the way to the mid-'80s.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
I mean, that decade, from 75 to 85, you probably find the most bundle of movies that I really fucking love in those 10 years. Yeah. And, a lot of that's because of Jack Nicholson, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's one of those roles that, just like we were saying, with Tim Curry as Pennywise.
Right.
Nobody else could have played that role. Would De Niro have been, a De Niro performance? Sure. But it's the difference between a single and a home run. Jack Nicholson would have hit the home run.
Right.
Robert De Niro would have pulled it off. He would have hit the single. It wouldn't have correlated.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. And I think all this stuff, and I'm sure if people haven't heard, there's a documentary called Room 237, which is all conjecture and opinion, but it's a really interesting thing to check out too. If you're into the, into the visuals and the things that you see in this movie. Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
I was going to say, I can't imagine you haven't seen it. What did you think? Are you not a fan of that? Or because it's all conjecture, I get that.
I appreciate that it exists.
Right.
When I turned it on, I thought it was going to be a documentary on the film.
I did too.
I thought it was going to be another, not a making of, but maybe the legacy of The Shining. That's what I thought going in. I didn't know it was going to be a lot of fan theories. I will say I think some people had decent enough ideas, but I think at the end of the day, a lot of them were. There was some idiot lady that said that in the corner there's a poster of someone skiing, and that it's actually a minotaur, and then it's the whole point of the film. I was like, what is this lady talking about?
Wow, whoa.
Yeah, I've never, I rewinded. I was like, did that lady just say that this is a minotaur, and that's the whole point of this movie? There was one guy saying that it was about the Native American,
right.
Native, Indian War and stuff, and, the Calumet, little cans and things and there's a lot of Indian burial ground, and the whole hotel is kind of Indian themed, and I thought that was interesting. There were interesting parts, the Apollo 13,
sure. Oh yeah,
stuff like that, the Apollo 11, that was interesting. But I think more than not, a lot of it was just what, a minotaur, really, lady?
Wow. That's crazy. And it's, again, Kubrick movies can do that to you.
Yeah, because
you know what I mean?
People in that documentary actually went to the lengths of playing it forward while playing it backwards. Like they overlapped the movie together.
Right.
Like they started from the beginning and they had another separate projector starting it from the end. And like there were scenes that would perfectly like edits and cuts that would perfectly match.
Right.
And like who would go to that length, man? Like only in a Kubrick film would you go to that length to play it fucking forward and backwards and try to meet in the middle.
Isn't that funny? That's crazy.
It's absolutely nuts.
What do you think? I think one of the most iconic horror movie lines ever, one of my favorite, I'll just say that, my favorites, is in this movie. Do you have any idea of the line I'm talking about?
I believe you have a clip of it.
I don't. Because
really?
I'm slacking.
Shit. Okay, then I got to take a guess because I know you're a huge fan of Wendy, Darling.
That's it. I think that is.
That's the one.
That is my favorite line in a movie ever. It's absolutely my favorite.
It's absolutely epic. It's possibly the best scene in the whole movie because that's the scene where she realizes that he's fucking nuts. And there's, I love the scene too, right before, with when he's just quietly typing and she goes, "Hey hon, I can come make you a sandwich."
Oh my God.
And he just looks at her like he gives her the absolute fucking death stare of the year. Yeah. And he just looks at her and just goes, "You hear this?" And he starts typing, and he goes, "This is me typing. This is me writing. Whenever the fuck you hear me do this, whenever the fuck I'm in here, you don't bother me. You're distracting." And he starts hitting himself in the forehead, and he starts ripping up papers, and she just, her face.
Oh my God.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I actually found the scene I was talking about. Let me see if I can. And while I'm doing this, while I'm playing this, I'll look for the other one. I'm gonna play the Wendy Darling scene real quick. And there might be. It's on YouTube, so there might be a.
Another Frosted Flakes.
Another Frosted Flakes ad. But let's see what happens.
I love Frosted Flakes.
I know, right?
Has it ever occurred to you what would happen to my future if I were to fail to live up to my responsibilities? Has it ever occurred to you? Has it?
Stay away from me.
Why?
I just want to go back to my room.
Why?
I'm very confused. I just need a chance to think things over.
You've had your whole fucking life to think things over. What good's a few minutes more gonna do you now?
Stay away from me. Please. Don't hurt me.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
Stay away from me.
Wendy.
Stay away.
Darling, light of my life. I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. I'm gonna bash them right the fuck in.
Stay away from me. Don't hurt me.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
Stay away from me. Stay away.
So there it is. Wow, dude, right? Holy shit.
Chills.
I mean, let me tell you something. Can you imagine, you're a little young, you haven't been married, but could you imagine your significant other, maybe your parents, saying to you, "I'm not going to hurt you, I'm just going to bash your fucking brains in." Holy shit. I mean, wow.
Man, it's terrifying.
It is.
It's terrifying. It is. And he does it all with a smile on his face.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's who do you give credit to? You give credit to Jack. You give credit to Stanley. I mean, you even give credit to Shelley Duvall. You know what I mean? It seems so real. You know what I mean? Just amazing. Just amazing.
It really works because he takes. It's almost as though it's not that he. How do I put this? He's enjoying it. He's getting pleasure out of scaring her and making her think that he's gonna fucking bash her brains in and like he takes that, and it's that sick pleasure that is what's so scary about it. It's like this is a fun thing for him. This is like a blast. This is a good day for him.
Right. And
it's super creepy, and it absolutely leaves the most profound of impacts.
Yeah, absolutely. What I guess what more can we say about it? But there are iconic scenes in this movie that you'll never forget. That'll set you ill at ease, and that you'll remember.
Let's run through some scenes, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, what are some of your other favorite like creepy ass scenes in this movie? Because this movie literally has a laundry list of them.
Yeah. Well, the ones we've already talked about where Danny's riding the big wheel, very, very unsettling, on and off the carpet. I mean, if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, just check this movie out, because you think, how can that be unsettling? But you got to check it out to understand where we're coming from. This scene here is one of my favorites, where she, at the beginning of this scene, which I found a whole scene, but it's like 9 or 10 minutes long, where she discovers when he's not there, and she's looking through his papers, and it says all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. That freaked me the fuck out when I first saw it when I was much, much younger. The scenes where he's bouncing the ball off the wall, you know what I mean, and things like. I mean, it's just I don't want to mention all of them because I want to give you something to talk about. What about you? What do you remember?
Oh man, see the scene when he's in the bar.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
There's two scenes obviously when he goes in the bar, and there's also something. They didn't mention it in 237, but this has always been my fan question or fanboy. Like this is like I have to know your opinion on this, and I don't even know if you or anyone else has ever even noticed this because I've never talked to a person that has.
Okay,
but we'll just jump right into that actually because now I've left everyone hanging.
Let's do it.
There's the scene in the gold room when he's alone and then Lloyd shows up, and it's that classic creepy scene of a little slow tonight, Lloyd, and you set him up, I'll knock him down, and that's some great stuff. And he talks about how he hit the kid or dislocated his arm or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's the scene later in the movie when it's literally like there's 100 people in there.
Right.
There's all these people in there sitting, talking. It's that great pan shot Kubrick does.
Yes.
And the guy knocks into him and spills stuff on his jacket, and they go into this like red bathroom, which was also I always thought visually kind of stunning, to clean himself off.
Sure.
And the guy says that his name, the waiter's name, is Delbert Grady.
Right.
And the whole scene goes on, and Jack Nicholson goes, you killed your wife and kids with an axe, right? And put both barrels of shotgun in your mouth. And then, the guy continues to tell him that Jack Torrance has always been the caretaker there.
Right.
Now, at the beginning of the movie, Barry Nelson, the scene with Barry Nelson, he says that the winter caretaker's name was Charles Grady.
Right.
So I always thought it was so strange that at the beginning of the movie, the guy's name was Charles Grady, but by the end, the guy's name is Delbert Grady. Am I crazy? Is that a plot hole? Is that like trying to say something? That has always been my fan question of this movie because I didn't notice it until like the 10th time I watched it. I was like, wait a minute, that's two separate names, is it not? Like, but is it the same guy? So this has been always my theory of the ending of the movie too, which is also a creepy scene, is that Jack Torrance was maybe he wasn't always the caretaker here. Maybe it was, a different Torrance. Maybe it was John Torrance. Instead of Charles Grady, then it was Delbert Grady.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it was the same guy all along, but with like different names and just different. Like that's always been my theory on the ending to try to explain the ending. But I mean, I could be dead wrong. I probably am.
Listen.
What's up?
He's that kind of guy, right? I mean, Kubrick is that kind of guy. Now, maybe there are some fans of the book out there who know something that we don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe it is just because of the source material. You know what I mean? Maybe he didn't really do it, but I can't imagine that's not. I mean, look, what about the scene with the guy in the suit giving that guy a blowjob or whatever? You know what I mean? The guy in the dog suit or whatever that is.
That's from the book. I think that's like. Oh man, I read that somewhere. That's like definitely in the book where there's a character in the book that has like a fascination with bears.
Is that what it is?
And like
that was the weirdest looking bear.
That was what Kubrick thought of that. I guess.
But
I've read that somewhere.
Okay.
That's definitely.
But yeah,
that's from the book, sure.
I just think it's interesting that, I mean, he threw things like that in, and maybe, and watching Room 237, they talk about the fact that he's always been the caretaker there, and and that the whole Grady thing was, I don't know, just a figment of his imagination, or you know what I'm saying. So I don't know, man. I have to be honest with you. I can't get too in depth in this movie because it'll just fuck me up. You know what I'm saying? I can't. The more I think about it, I'll stop talking to people because I'm thinking about this fucking shit. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. It's just one of those types of movies and I think that's what makes this movie a classic. Don't you think?
Yes.
I mean, because this movie does not leave you quickly.
No, it does not. That's true.
Yeah. So I think that's and Kubrick, maybe he was just, I mean, obviously he was a filmmaking genius, but maybe there was, he was smarter than, the average bear, and he did these things on purpose, even though it looked like it may have just been a mistake, or, I don't know, man. I really don't have any idea. And if I knew, they'd probably pay me millions of dollars to talk about it, because I don't think anybody understands this shit. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I've never heard like a definitive answer as to what
crazy.
The ending of this movie really means, and it's really like I always go back to my kind of whole spiel of like, who cares really?
Right.
And at the end of the day, I really don't.
I know.
It's not
I know.
it's not. I know a lot of people that say like, oh, the ending is so dumb, doesn't make any sense. Like, that's not one of those movies. And the movie we're going to talk about next week is another movie that people despise the ending of, which I don't get.
Right.
Because it's left up to you. There's no real question.
Right.
But like I usually like endings like that. Like, let me fill in the blank. Right. And I've tried a few times to fill in the blank, and it's fun. But like, I don't let it ruin or hinder my experience of this movie.
Exactly. Well, this is what makes movies like this fun, because you can talk to people about them, and everybody's kind of got a differing opinion, or you know what I mean. So that that's one of the best parts about this movie, is sitting back and talking to other people and asking them what their opinion on these things are. You know what I mean? But getting back to some scenes, I mean, what are some other iconic scenes that you remember that? I mean, I remember there's one very, very in particular one from when I was a childhood that really, and you talk about Kubrick and how he does things, and how he, he makes things, he mixes, the good and the bad together. And for me, as a probably 10 or 11-year-old kid watching this movie, the scene with the naked chick in the bathroom, and then it was an old lady, that fucked me up as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Because at one moment you're like, oh, look at what I'm seeing. And the next minute you're like, oh my God, look at what I'm seeing. You know what I'm saying? So that, that really jacked me up for a long time. Did you see this first time when you were older, or were you around that same age?
No, I was young. And I'll never forget like how into that scene I was until the old lady is revealed, because he goes into the room and it's a classic Kubrick room, like all the colors and stuff like that. It's like taken straight out of like Clockwork Orange kind of set in a room, and like he walks in and. See, I remember being a kid. I was like, "Oh man, this is fucking awesome movie, man!" Like, he's enjoying the voyeurism, and like he gets there, and then they start, and then he sees in the mirror that she's all like old and fucking gross and like decaying, right, and that laugh always stuck with me. Like I can't hear an older woman laugh to this day. It makes me think of that.
Who am I
hugging? It makes me think of that disgustingness body. Like, oh, like I said though before, like how Kubrick takes something beautiful and then mixes it with something that doesn't fit, and it's unsettling. It's like, oh, look at a beautiful blonde, 6'3", fucking smoking hot blonde. Oh, and yeah, we're gonna turn her into a disgusting, decaying old lady that will laugh in your fucking face.
Right? Oh my God,
it's
teeth were all
scary,
fucked up.
man. So goddamn scary. Yeah. Scares me to this day.
Yeah.
Probably the scene in this movie that scares me the most, like to this day, like it's because it's just so unsettling. But like, I always really like the scene too where they have this whole kind of I don't know what you'd call it, like I guess a replica of the maze
Yes.
in the hotel. Like they have a replica of like it's like it's the entire maze, but it's like like I don't know like a toy figure, I guess,
It's like
or
a
something like that.
scale model or whatever.
Scale model, yeah, that's what I was looking for. And he's kind of looking at it, and I like how they kind of zoom to him, then they turn the camera like 90 degrees and just go straight down into the maze, and it's Wendy and Danny in the maze. And I always thought, what amazing filmmaking, number one.
Absolutely.
And number two, like, what a story you're telling there. It's like Jack's watching them. He's watching them in the maze.
Exactly.
He's not taking his eyes off them. He's planning out what he's going to do. And, like, I loved that. I always thought, what a brilliant scene that Kubrick thought of there. Like so simple, yet so effective.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie is such a movie that we haven't even really talked about it. Does that make any sense? Yeah. Like the fact that in this movie, their little boy Danny has what Scatman Carruthers calls the shining, which means that he can see things that are happening or that are going to happen or has happened in the past. And Scatman Carruthers has the same ability. And, he has, oh my God, there's so much to this story. Danny claims before they get to the Overlook Hotel as a family, he claims that there's a little boy who lives in his mouth, which sounds like a Catholic priest's biography. But anyways, coming
from a Catholic,
Anyways, so he's seeing these things that have happened or are going to happen at the hotel, and he's not sure if he wants to go. And he asks Wendy, if you heard in the trailer, he asks Wendy, his mother, "Do you really want to go to this place?" And so on and so forth. So that's part of the story, and the story starts where they're there for months and months. I believe it's for like 6 months, right, or something, 5 or 6 months over the winter, because the winters are so bad and no one else can get there and they can't get out, and they have all this food in the kitchen and blah 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 blah. But anyways, the point is that all this bad shit starts to happen. Jack Nicholson starts to go crazy, and his wife and son are, they're dealing with it much better than he is, and he starts to terrorize them. Well, Danny uses his ability, The Shining, to call, I don't know how else to put it, to call Scatman Carruthers, who is actually in Florida and they're in Colorado, and he realizes something's going on. He keeps calling back to find out if everything's going on okay up there, and he can't get a hold of them, and he's calling like the sheriff's department and so on and so forth. Anyways, he makes the trip back up, and which was kind of a letdown. How do you feel about that? And what I'm talking about is he gets back to the hotel. He has to take a snowcat because there's no other way to get there. Snowcat's like I don't know what you'd call it, like a, I don't know, like an ATV or something like that. And he gets there, and within 10 minutes, he's dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, boy, that's a suckiest savior ever. But anyways, what did you think about that? Did you think that it was kind of just a plot point and it didn't really mean a whole lot, or do you think it was just a way for them to get the snowcat there so that they could escape, or?
I think in a lot of ways it was a way to get a body count.
Okay, that makes sense. I agree with that.
Like, because I have a feeling like he was probably like, well, someone's got to die. It's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like someone's got to get murdered. Like not just, because obviously Jack Torrance dies at the end.
Sure.
Because he freezes in the snow. But like, I'm sure he probably wanted somebody to leave the theater because he was determined to make a hit.
Yeah.
He was probably like, I want someone leaving the theater saying like, oh man, there's an axe murder in it.
Right.
Like, so somebody would be like, oh shit, let's go. So,
it was pretty brutal, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Oh man. Jack was hiding behind a pillar, and he's walking through the Overlook Hotel, and he just comes out from behind a pillar and hits him right dead center in the chest with an axe. And that's another thing too, is that I think that most people who saw this movie really liked that character, don't you think? Of Halloran.
He was kind of like an audience sympathetic
kind
of character.
Absolutely. So to see him die, it was probably very shocking. I mean, it was to me, but it was probably very shocking to most people.
Yeah, and there are scenes in this movie too that, like, to this day, I would love to know how he did it. How did he shoot the blood coming out of the elevator like that, like, and then washing up almost like a wave, like a wave of blood, like that was always the thing. Like, I remember seeing that, I was like, and that shot is seen
Scary.
a few times throughout the movie.
Yes.
But it's like,
go ahead.
Go for it. Go for it.
Well, the one thing that I know is that scene took 9 weeks to set up. Can you believe that shit?
Yeah, see, that's insane.
Yeah. And to get it right, I don't know exactly what they mean by this, but to get it right took over a year. So I don't know if that meant editing and slow-mo and all that kind of stuff. It took a year. So whatever that means, I'm not sure. They didn't really get into any specifics to what that means. But here's another very interesting thing. I'm glad you brought that up, is back then in 1980, I guess probably would have been 79 really when it went through the MPAA for the trailer, they refused to show blood in a trailer that was going to be widely seen. That could have been seen by children and adults alike. So Kubrick, thinking quickly, said, "That's not blood, it's rusty water." And that scene became the trailer, the TV spot for this movie. Isn't that hilarious? Yeah, so he lied to him and told him it was rusty water. When and so my question is what did they think of him afterwards? You know what I mean? Would they say, "We're never going to put another trailer of his on TV," or or whatever? But I don't know. I just find that I think of this guy as a recluse, obviously, right? He doesn't go anywhere. He does, but he must have been a salesman too. You know what I mean? To be able to sell something like that. Yeah,
absolutely. And what's amazing is that, like, imagine that being the TV spot.
No shit, right?
Just not because I don't think that there really was a trailer. Like you played the trailer just now.
Yeah.
But like, was that the trailer released in?
No. I'm
right?
sure that was a fan made maybe.
Yeah, I thought it was fan made.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I've never even heard that trailer.
Me neither.
But like, imagine that's like The Shining.
Right.
That's because it's mysterious.
Yes.
Like I remember used to see like spots at like the most random times in the morning watching wrestling, and it would be a quick spot or something,
right?
And I'd be like, I gotta go see that,
right?
Like that recent show that was on Blood Drive, they started showing ads and commercials at like all hours of the night, and only all hours of the night to start promoting the show. It was like, you like the Grindhouse, you like this, and like I would be like, what the fuck? I remember one night I had it on in the background. I had Sci-Fi Channel on,
right?
And I was like on my phone. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I heard that, and I looked up, and I was like, why do I not see this on during the day? Why did I not,
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the coolest thing. Look at this, and like, I think that adds a marketing factor.
Yeah.
I think that's very smart, because to the underground kind of nerd that's up at that time, that's looking for something mysterious and weird and something that's not quite sure.
Right.
I mean, that I flock to it. I watched the premiere of Blood Drive, So if I saw that, you don't see anything of Jack Nicholson or Shelley Duvall or even Stanley Kubrick's name. You don't see.
Nope. No.
It's just, it's like, let's go see it.
Yep.
It's awesome how he sold that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. This, the mystery in this movie really, really is what I think is its best selling point today, but may not have been back then. What do you think? Because people thought maybe they were getting something else. What do you think? Is that possible?
Well, explain to me your point. Like,
because back then it wasn't critically acclaimed. You know what I mean? This movie was not critically acclaimed, and it didn't. I mean, it made a decent amount of money, but it didn't make a ton of money. So I think that maybe people saw that trailer and that mysteriousness in the trailer and went thinking they were going to see, maybe a slasher movie or something, or something of that nature. Because even though this was a book, I don't know how many people at that time knew about, you know what I mean? I mean, you probably would have had to have been a pretty good Stephen King fan or pretty hardcore Stephen King fan to know exactly what you would be getting into going to see a Shining movie, which even those people didn't really know what they were getting into because it was something totally different. I don't know, just something I thought I'd throw out there. What do you think?
I think you're actually might be right, because it's like, for me, if that was me, absolutely that would be the reason I'd go and see it.
Right.
Sure. And that's what's amazing too. It's like, and okay, so say I see that, and then I look in the paper and it's Stanley Kubrick's The Shining,
right.
And I'm like, okay, we got a great filmmaker, an established filmmaker,
Right.
and that was all I saw of the movie. That scene, that one shot of
Sure.
the blood coming out of the elevator door opening, the blood pouring out, and then literally engulfing the camera. It
Right.
literally hits the camera lens. Like you see it hit the
Right.
camera
Right.
lens. If that's what I saw, I'm like, what is this movie going to be about? Who's going to be in this movie? What's going to go on in it? It looks crazy. We got a lot of blood. We got one of the best filmmakers of all time.
Right.
Let's stop everything we're doing. Let's go and see it. And like that's just the way I'm wired. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out of curiosity totally went to see it because of that. Because it's like
Right.
what like this is the way people are wired. Don't turn to Channel 11 to see the huge car crash on I-95. What are a majority of people going to do?
Right.
They're going to go turn to the channel and see how bad the car crash was.
Right. Right.
You told them not to do it. You told them don't do it. Not a good idea.
Right.
They go and do it anyway. That's just the way people are, and that's just the way that we're wired. I
Sure,
think it's a
sure.
human. I think it's a normal thing,
Yeah,
actually.
I agree.
But it's the way it is, and it's like if I see blood pouring out of an elevator, and I hear, "Oh, it's very scary. It's a really really scary movie. Don't go and see it." It's like that's the first thing I want to do is go and see it. And it's like no disrespect to the other person
Sure.
that told you don't do it.
Right.
It's just it's that intrigue, it's that curiosity, and sometimes the curiosity kills the cat, but sometimes holy shit, it can be the coolest thing in the world. And
Right.
like that's why I love this movie. It's mysterious to this day. There are so many unanswered questions about it.
Absolutely.
But it works, and it's so iconic. Like Red Rum is iconic.
No doubt. Absolutely.
The all work and no play makes Jack,
Jack
a dull boy is
yeah.
iconic.
It is.
The twins, iconic.
Yes.
Everything about this movie is iconic.
Yep.
I can't think of one thing about this movie I would really change, maybe other than Shelley Duvall, but like
Right.
even to this day, like I don't like it's the same thing. I don't let it hinder anything. Like it's just
Right.
like
Right.
I really watch the movie more for Jack, for Kubrick, for the cinematography,
Sure.
for the hotel, for the
Yep.
story, more than anything else.
Yep. Thinking about you're talking about how when someone tells you not to do something, we're more likely to do it. That is such an '80s thing, man. Make them die slowly. Cannibal Apocalypse. Cannibal Ferox. Thank you. On the box it said banned in 27 countries. You know what I mean? Which I'm sure it was banned in a couple places, but I don't know about 27. But anyways, that just seeing that on the box made me want to see it. You know what I mean? Even though I was scared as shit to see it, I had to get it. You know what I mean? It was just one of those kind of things. And it's just funny because that went on so much back then. You know what I mean? And they used to just change titles of movies so you'd go rent it again. You know what I mean? And you go, fuck, I've already seen this motherfucker. What am I watching this for again? But it's kind of an '80s trick. You know what I mean? And tell people, oh, you definitely don't want to see that, and they just run out and do it. So that's hilarious that you brought that up.
It's the same thing with Last House on the Left. That was their marketing. It's only a movie. It's only a movie.
Right.
People were probably like, "What the hell is this?" Like
Right.
what's going to go on in this movie for
That's
me
right.
to actually have to remind myself that it is only a movie. And
Right.
it's like that marketing will never fail. That is the
No.
best. Like if I ever market a horror movie, that's how I'm marketing.
Right. The most gruesome movie you've ever seen. What do they say at the end of the John Larroquette thing at the beginning of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? One of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, the kind of crazy with the subtle is the idyllic summer drive
Right.
became a nightmare. It became known as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Absolutely, man. Like you said, if we ever make a movie, we definitely got to do that just for the fuck of it. So.
Yeah, man, totally. I have I saw this recently since you brought up Make Them Die Slowly. I'm sending you a picture right now.
Okay.
There's actually it was a grindhouse theater in like the 80s I think around the 80s that played this and like put it up as a marquee as Make Them Die Slowly in the street. I just thought it was the coolest little photo. I got it sent it to you right now.
That's funny.
But man, like I totally agree with you, man. Like that marketing is just so good. And the thing now is I feel like don't you think that's it may be still prevalent with movies like The Saw and like torture porn, but like I don't flock to it like I used to, you know?
Right. Well,
like, what do you think? What do you think the problem is between a movie like Cannibal Ferox and a movie like a torture porn movie? Like, what would you say? Like, because I get enjoyment out of Cannibal Ferox, but I don't get enjoyment out of a torture porn movie. Like, what is the difference in your eyes?
Well, first of all, it's one of the facts is that we get older. You know what I'm saying? Now that's not everything, but we get a little bit older, we get a little bit jaded. But for me, I can tell you what it is for me. And what it is for me is originality. You know, a movie like which, and maybe it was because I was younger that I thought it was original, because Make Them Die Slowly wasn't original. You know what I mean? I mean, you had other, you know,
Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So, but for me, that's what I thought. But torture porn for me, first of all, you know why I have a problem with torture porn is who kind of coined the term and started it. I'm not a huge fan of Eli Roth. You know what I mean? So I love him for what he wants to be, but I'm not a fan. You know what I'm saying? I love the fact that...
Exactly. I agree 100%.
Yeah, I love that he's a fan and that he wants to you know, harken back to the 80s. But I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just an 80s snob. And that's a weird thing to say, because I don't feel like the 80s movies really give you a reason to be a snob. You know what I mean? To be snobby. But I just love those movies so much that it's hard for me to allow people to try to be like that and be okay with it. I don't know, man. I really wish I had a some kind of real in-depth, thoughtful answer to that. But I really feel like that's what it is, you know, we don't have the same mentality when we first saw these movies. Even you too. I mean, you saw these movies probably around the same age that I saw a lot of these movies. You know what I mean? And as we get older, you kind of get jaded, I think. And I really think that's what it boils down to for me. What about you? What do you think?
See, I definitely think that takes a hand in it, because I mean, I could even with movies that aren't the torture porn movies, but I will get into why the difference I see.
Okay.
But a perfect example are the last two Star Wars movies.
Right.
I hate them. I hate them both. I thought they both were terrible. Couldn't have been worse. But
tend to agree.
When I was a kid, there was something about discovering the Force, and Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and all these awesome characters that I fell in love with, and I was able to let them take me into this universe, this galaxy far, far away, and I was able to kind of be like, this is awesome, and kind of they won me over. Yep. There was a magic to that, and then now seeing it, it's like the magic is it's not that it's gone, it's that it's just it's not that it's not the same. It's not as impactful, and it's not as magical. It doesn't pack as big a punch for me. Right. Because there's something about when you first see the epic Darth Vader Luke Skywalker showdown. There's something about it. And then, you know, jumping back to the hard train of a movie like Make Them Die Slowly, and let's say a movie like, all right, we were talking about Eli Roth, we'll pick out Hostel.
Sure.
I love Make Them Die Slowly. I think it's a great movie. It's very grimy. It's very gritty. It's a grindhouse movie. It's shot in the dead heat of the summer. There's that scene with the poor girl who gets hung up by her tits with these hooks. Yeah. I mean, terrifying. For the love and then you watch a movie like Hostel, which is these three backpackers that kind of get they think they're getting good with women, and instead they're going to be killed for basically for this crazy. Yeah, I don't want to get into it.
Right,
but
sure.
The reason. But I think what it is when you're a kid, you think to yourself, there's the forbidden factor. Right. I shouldn't be watching this. Exactly. My mom would kill me. My dad would frown at me. You start thinking about people that you know and think you're normal and you still are. Just because you're watching a movie like that doesn't mean you aren't. Right. It's just the fact that I'll talk about tea and crumpets with grandma, but I want to watch people get fucking eaten and mutilated.
Right.
It's like a lot of people don't understand.
No, they don't.
Mentality, but it's completely normal in my opinion.
Yes, I agree.
There was something about it discovering that when I was a kid and going, oh my God, like this is crazy. Like look how they have her hanging, and look, they just chopped his penis off, and you know, but when I see it in Hostel, I kind of roll my eyes and go, either, oh, I saw this before, or there's no heart to this. Like there's always a problem.
I agree.
It's never the same magic. I think the magic is still there. I just don't think it's as impactful.
Yep.
And listen, could I be jaded? Could the times we've had me by? Absolutely, they could be.
Yeah.
Because I am a sucker for the nostalgia. I love what I grew up with. I love the stuff that I watched when I was a kid. You know, I didn't ever stick my nose up at a movie really when I was a kid.
Right.
So yeah, I think you're right. Maybe it is that kind of factor of, you know, I'm burnt out of this, or I'm just getting older. I'm getting more, you know, restless and tiresome. And,
Sure.
and hey, if that's the truth, it's a shame, because I wish we could all stay kids forever.
No shit, man. No shit. Listen,
it's hard.
I'll tell you, you know, I've said this to many people on many forums, is that, you know, we see movies as children, and, you know, children, whether that be 15 or whether that be 10 or 5 or whatever. And then as horror fans, we spend the rest of our life trying to get a hold of that feeling again. And I don't know if it's possible, man. I will say that there are movies, I enjoy movies, don't get me wrong, but it's just not the same. I think what it boils down to, John, is for us now, even you at 21 years old, is you're just not as naive as you used to be. And, for me, seeing Friday the 13th, you know, you talk about that forbidden fruit factor. You know, I saw Friday the 13th at a drive-in at 7 years old, and I was supposed to be sleeping in the back seat, and I was peering around the seat. And I know we talked about this many times, but that's exactly what it was. I wasn't supposed to be doing it, you know. And, it scared the shit out of me. I slept next to my mom's bed for like 6 months on the floor. You know what I mean? That's how bad it scared me. But as soon as I got over that, I was looking for my next, what I'll call a fix of horror. So, you know, I moved on from there to Halloween and so on and so forth. But now what we know is, and this was going on then, but now we know it when we see new horror movies, is those people are just out to make a buck.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the thing is that they were then too, but we didn't know it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? They were doing that because they wanted me to be entertained. That's the only reason they did it. You know what I mean? In my mind as a child, you know, when I was a kid. But now we just know, you know, obviously the entertainment is there. You know, they want you to be entertained, but they also just want to make $1 million. You know what I mean? And that it's very hard as an adult to get past that. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have that as a child. And I really feel like that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem.
Exactly. And as much as we love Umberto Lenzi, it's like he and Eli Roth were both trying to make a buck.
Exactly.
It's like you basically, like, I could totally see an unbiased person saying, "What's the difference?"
Right.
And
exactly.
Like, I don't know if I could tell you. The difference to me would be the magic.
You're just
spiel.
like, look,
that,
fuck
I
you.
honestly
You heard me.
It's that those movies had a certain magic to them,
right?
And like I think you're right. We all do, us horror fans, and it's tragic in a way that we all we're always looking for that next movie to make us feel like that.
Yeah.
And like there are times, but like I won't say that I'm jaded, because there are movies that have made me feel like that.
Sure.
When I saw It Follows in the theater, I felt like that.
Yeah.
I walked out of that theater and said, I rented this at Blockbuster. I discovered it. It's a new, like, I was like, this is such a good feeling. And, like, it doesn't last long, which is what kills you.
Right.
It's like, it almost sounds like we're a bunch of drug addicts, me and you.
Right. I know.
Like,
really, though. That's true.
It's sick. It's sick to kind of, like you could totally, like, if you bleeped or you know, muted certain parts, you would be like, oh, they're talking about meth.
Right. No shit, right? What's wrong with these guys?
Like, it's sick because that's how deep our passion is. It's not just another thing. It's not just a movie or just you know, something we watch to keep us entertained. No, it's like it's a culture. It's something that we grew up with. And it's a part of us.
Yeah.
In
I agree.
You know, a lot of cool and unique ways.
Yeah. You know, I was trying to think of the last time I had a similar feeling about a movie, and you know, I really enjoyed the movie The Babysitter, which I don't believe you've seen yet still.
I will see it though.
Yeah, and
next time I go to someone's house with Netflix, I will see it.
And I really enjoyed Better Watch Out. I really like both those movies. They weren't quite there. The last one that made, and I can't explain this. Okay, I mean I can, but I don't know if everybody would agree with me. I saw a movie recently. It just came out last year called Pool Party Massacre, and it's super, super low budget. But I really loved this movie. You know what I mean? And I can't really say that it harkened me back to my Friday the 13th 7-year-old self, but new movies, especially slasher movies, really don't hold my attention. Okay, usually, you know what I'm saying. But this movie, it was one of those movies where I sat down and I watched the whole thing and really enjoyed it, and told people, "Hey, you got to see this movie," and so on and so forth. So that's probably, I was trying to think of the last time that happened. When's do you think it was It Follows for you? Was that the last time?
That's the last time a new movie gave me a feeling like that. But I'll go back to Insidious. When I saw Insidious in the theater, I loved that. The Conjuring, I had the same feeling walking out of The Conjuring. Yeah. So it's like, I think the one thing with when you can't, the only way you can call someone jaded, like a horror fan jaded now, is if they can't, like, no matter how good the movie is. Right. Like, they could walk out and say, "Oh, it was great," but like, I don't have that feeling. Like, to me, then you become jaded, because if it's impossible. Sure. But it's not. It really isn't. I've had it happen. It just doesn't happen as often as we'd like. Yep. But that's what makes it special.
True.
Because if it happened, if there was a horror movie out every month that made me feel like that, it just, after a while, my standards would grow. Yeah. And they'd be like unreachable to a point. So I think it's good that it kind of happens few and far between. Yeah. And to be honest with you, there's a movie called Don't Go in the House. Oh, geez. It was one of the video nasties. And I had never seen it until maybe last summer. It was just one night. I was just kind of bored. I was up late, and I threw it on Amazon Prime, and I had that feeling again of that forbidden factor. Like, I shouldn't be watching this. It's a movie basically about a guy who was abused as a child, and he basically builds this kind of room where he can burn women alive. It's fucked up.
With a flamethrower, right?
Yeah, flamethrowers, like, and they show everything. Like, it's one of the it's a very graphic movie for, when it was made. But like, that was the last time like an old movie gave me that feeling of, like, when I used to rent movies from Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, where I'd just be like in awe. Like, that was the last time an old movie did that to me. Was that, and I'd say It Follows is the last current movie to do that. Like, there's movies I like The Witch. I thought it was good, but like, it didn't bring me back. No. It didn't make me a kid again. It was just a good movie.
The last movie that made me really, really feel like that, and we've talked about this. We've already talked about this movie. Was the first time I saw Suspiria, and usually, usually I wouldn't say like Suspiria is the scariest movie, but I'll be damned if it didn't scare I mean, I was up late and in a strange house, and it was just, I don't know, man, it just made me feel so weird. And like I said, I think that's the cool thing, is that you find one of those every 10 years or something, you know what I mean, and that's what keeps you loving horror, you know what I mean. And obviously going back and watching the old ones that you saw as a kid too does it too. But it's very hard to get that feeling anymore, but when it does happen, it's a big deal for sure, no doubt.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and it's like it's nice when it happens, because they're so few and far between. Yep. But yeah, I've enjoyed this little tangent. Yeah, man. This was like the Shining review / roundtable.
I know, no doubt.
Your audio sounds a little bit weird. Just recently when you just talk about Suspiria, I don't know. If
it's the ghost.
Wait, say something.
The ghost.
Sound a little bit better.
The ghost of Sergio. What's Dario Argento's dad's name? Anyways, whatever. What was his name? Was it Sergio Argento? Anyways,
Sergio Martini?
No, I was thinking of Dario Argento's dad produced all of his movies for a long time. I can't remember what his first name is. But anyways, so I guess moving on, talked about, anybody wants to say anything about The Shining, let us know. You know where to reach us, Facebook, Gmail, Flashback Horror Movie Podcast at gmail.com. And I wanted to mention, I know, we've been talking about this. Our next episode is going to be on the movie The Thing, which, dun, dun, dun. I'm sure everybody knows we love it, but they probably don't know that it's my favorite movie of all time. So it's going to be another fantastic show. We're going to have a special guest. We hope. We got our fingers crossed. Raj Snyder, brother, maybe.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to be on.
The breath.
Yeah, right. Don't hold your breath, man. You never know. But anyways, yeah. So he's supposed to be on. We're gonna, and maybe we can get Will to come on after that. And we're talking about cold, snowy, scary movies because of this weather that we're having. Because it's been outrageous. And I know. Have you actually got to go out of the house in the last couple of days?
Yeah, I actually went out
okay.
last night.
That's
I went
good.
to a friend's house.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you're not totally snowed in then.
No, it's just so like tall.
Yeah,
That's
so
what's so crazy about it.
Because we both know that when you're snowed in, all work and no play makes John a dull boy. Right. John, you'd never be dull.
My brains in.
Never be dull. You'd never be dull. Anyways, all right, brother. Well, yeah. So we will hook up next week. This should be up tonight. I'm off all day today, so I should have this edited and up on Spreaker and iTunes and Stitcher and all that stuff. Hopefully within a couple hours here, just depending on what's going on. All my kids are home, so it gets a little hectic sometimes. I'm surprised they've been quiet this long. So, anyways, brother, anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you want to mention?
No, I just want to say great conversation, man.
Yeah,
I like that we kind of went off. That was a really cool topic for conversation.
It was. Kubrick always gets you talking.
Always. And then talking about the kind of feeling that horror movies give us was also a nice kind of, because I've never heard anybody talk about something like that.
Nope.
Like that was so interesting.
Yeah, real. All right, man. Well, I guess that's the end. We will talk soon, and I guess I'll catch you on the flip side.
You got it, brother.
All right,
Peace.
Take it easy. Peace. All right, man. Cool. That was the longest episode in a long time. It was almost 2 hours long, dude.
Yeah, I actually got up pretty early today, so I was like, "Oh man, I'm down, I'm ready to talk."
Yeah,
because my sleeping schedule was all fucked up. Like,
I bet.
Like yesterday when you I was like just waking up when you. I was like, Jesus Christ, my hours are fucked. Like, there was one day this week I got up at like 3.
Oh my gosh, don't you hate that?
Just because I was sick though.
Yeah.
Just because I was really sick. Like,
yeah,
I could not move out of bed, so I was like, oh man, fuck it. There's no reason to get up.
I always felt like that. It ruins your day when you get up that late. It's like the day's gone almost. You know what I mean? But when you're sick, not a whole lot you can do about that.
It is a really shitty feeling, but I'm glad I got my hours back, and
nice.
I'll head back to work tomorrow night, and be watching more horror till then. But all right, man, dude, great. That was one of the best episodes I think we did.
Yep, absolutely. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, so if you hear anything from Ryan, let me know. If I hear something, I'll let you know. But other than that, next Tuesday, 10 or 11 o'clock. I mean, I know that's like your first day back, right?
No, I don't go back till the 29th.
Oh my gosh, dude, you are a lucky son of a bitch.
Yeah,
all
dude,
right.
I was off from the 7th to the 29th.
I know, that is incredible. Yeah, part-time.
Like, everyone hates me.
Yeah, right, no doubt. Okay, well, cool then. Then you want to do 11? Actually, he's off, so he's going to have to do it whenever we do it. You want to do 10? You want to do 11?
What do you mean?
11 o'clock, 10 o'clock on the 16th?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. I was so confused. I thought you were talking about the dates. I was like,
oh, no.
The 10th or the 11th. I thought we were doing it on the fucking... No, dude, my bad. Brain.
That's all right.
That's all right. Dude, either one.
Okay.
I don't care.
Let's just play it by ear, and then you let me know, and I'll let him know. You know what I mean?
Play it by ear.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right, brother. Cool. Enjoy this week. It's a short week for me, so hopefully that'll go well. Maybe even shorter, depending on how the weather goes. But we'll see how it goes. Yeah, and I'll be in touch. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, totally, man.
All right,
totally.
man. Yeah,
enjoy your day off.
Yep, looking forward to talking about the thing too, man. I'm stoked.
Oh, that's gonna be a fun talk.
Yeah, cool. All right, brother. All right, take it easy. Have a good week, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too, brother.
All
Peace.
Right, peace.